Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Basscast Radio. I am your host, Brian Carter, and joining with us tonight is Bass Geek and Thomas Aarons of Fishing the DMV. We got special guest, Mr. Gene Jensen, in the house, everyone. Welcome back, Gene. Gene's been on many episodes of Basscast Radio, and we really appreciate you coming on again and talking with us tonight. Before we get started, I know it's going to be a week old because now we upload on Mondays, but what a weekend for there it is. It's right here. The Big Bass Tour on Smith Mountain Lake. 19 years old, guys. A 19-year-old won it. I think, if I remember correctly, I need to really look at my stories. Like the 10 to 11 o'clock hour, a 7:17, a 7:07 or 7:08 led. I mean, a guy called it the first hour, and I still told everybody, I said, this is going to be an event where it's going to be won on the last day. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, like I said, the 10, 11 o'clock hour, a 7:17 was brought in. The dude fished out of a fishing ski. It was his dad's boat. So that was pretty freaking cool that he fished out of that. That was actually at the beach while he was winning a boat. He was on his way home from the beach while he
That's awesome.
That is freaking awesome.
So Cooper Aaron, congratulations to him on winning that. I mean, like I said, a brand new Nitro. I want to say it's about 50,000. So 150 on the back of the Nitro. It's a really nice looking boat. I think if I remember correctly, it's like a gray and red boat. So it's really freaking cool. So congratulations to him on winning the fall edition of the 2024 Big Bass Tour. And like I said to him, I mean, guys, the boat could blow up tomorrow. The money spends quick. But ain't but so many people out of about 800 anglers are going to take home a trophy that said you actually won the 2024 Fall Big Bass Tour event. So that's pretty freaking awesome. Congratulations to him. They'll be back again next year. I think it's in April. So really excited to have him back. It's a great event. Like I said, it brings anglers from all over the area. We have guys from North Carolina, South Carolina, a lot of people from West Virginia and Maryland that fish this event. So it's a busy weekend on Smith Mountain Lake, but it's always freaking cool. It's a weigh-in every hour. I mean, what can you go wrong? Weigh-in every hour, someone's going to take home $1,000, guaranteed for the first place, all the way down to like $100. So come on up, fish the 2025 season. Looking forward to spending the weekend. I camped all weekend, guys. It wasn't too bad. I think it's about 45 degrees every night and about 75 during the day. So, you woke up with 4 layers on and you went to sleep with 2 layers on. So, I mean, but it was a cool weekend. All right, let's go around the room like we always do. Geek, what is happening in your world, brother?
Same old stuff, man. As the legendary OG up here in the corner said to me one time, and I have lived by this mantra. Just living the grind, man. Learn to love the grind.
Love the grind.
That's he said that to me in Knox Vegas, Tennessee, one time, and I have stuck that right here because that is exactly what I do. So.
All right, so like you said, please give him a follow as always. Please subscribe. Geek, you're up to 80,000, aren't you? 80 plus?
81, closing in on 82 now.
Boom. 82,000 followers.
There we go.
Subscribe today. Thomas, what's happening in your world, brother? Come on, guys. This is his 4th podcast in one day.
Fourth podcast this hour, I believe, is what I heard.
I don't have kids.
Ground, you know what the hell happened.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week. We've been talking with the lawyers about getting some paperwork finalized for Casting for Conservation. That is the nonprofit we have going up in 2025. We also have that Patreon members only tournament that finishes up on Hallows Eve next week. And I start doing some recordings with the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources for 2025. We're dropping a bunch of episodes. We're pre-recording that. So it's been crazy, but it's been a lot of fun. And we just finished up recording a guy that did extremely well in the native watercraft Big Bass Bash up on the Susquehanna, which is, it's crazy to think, like, at what point is it more luck than skill if you have 6,000 boats on a body of water for like a 1 hour chance to catch one. I always thought it was interesting. Like, is there a probability where it tips over to more of like, yeah, just throw on a HUD and just good luck to you? It was an interesting conversation.
So, boom. That's kind of like the Big Bass Tour. I mean, you figure it wasn't that many boats, though. Holy cow! But it was 800 anglers vying to cash a check.
God.
Yeah, 800 anglers vying to cash a check for $1,000. Top prize $1,000. The top prize for the hour, and then the overall top prize, the brand new Nitro bass boat. So, I mean, you're talking about a lot of people on the water. I mean, there is a tournament this Sunday. Hopefully the lake's done settled a little bit and some fish and maybe went back to another location, because you figure there's a whole lot of fish dumped in one location. You guys all know they're all dumped in
fish for those retreads.
Yeah, they're all dumped in Mariners Landing Resort. So we'll go over Sunday and see like 20 boats in that area trying to catch the retreads.
Do events like that, Brian, actually have a cap on like, listen, we can't have 100,000 bass boats on Smith Mountain Lake? Is there actually a cap on that?
So their event is done by anglers, and you're allowed 3 anglers per boat. So you're allowed to have so it's really cool, this event, though. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, because there's a lot of, this is one of them events where fathers and sons can come out and fish for $200 and have a chance to get $1,000. And there's a whole lot of fathers and sons. They also pay a youth as well. I think if you're 12 and under, I think it's what it is, don't quote me, but they pay a youth as well, and they get a cool little plaque. So, I mean, it's just I think the most we've had was almost like 900 at one time.
That's insane.
But it's a whole lot of acreage. So, I mean, but the place does get beat up. You figure every rock, every tree stump, every laydown. And in this past weekend's tournament, every dock got hit. I mean, a jig won it. He says about 3 feet of water. I trust the kid. I've been knowing the kid for a very long time. He's been fishing with the Bass Cast. So, I mean, the lake needs a week or two just to settle. Maybe longer, to be honest. But it ain't going to happen at Smith Mountain Lake. There's a damn tournament every weekend. And even the boys want me to jerk the scales out during the wintertime, which is my break, because I know, like Gene and all of us, really, we're all going to break till Christmas, have New Year's, and back on the road we go. I mean, I have got more expos added this year, because we have one in Roanoke this year. Mm-hmm. We got the one there's a bunch of, we don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but there's a bunch more expos in 2025 that I'm going to be attending. So there's a lot going on already. All right, guys. Gene Jensen, welcome back to the show. For you guys that don't know, Gene Jensen has 476,000, the OG of YouTube. I don't think there is anyone out there that has that many followers. And maybe even Brandon. You don't have more. I mean, you got more, I think, than Brandon Pollock and all of them. But
he's got more than easily.
So, if you guys are not watching Gene on YouTube, you need to make sure you subscribe. But welcome back to the show, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Just a little worn out from this last week, but yeah, I'm doing pretty dang good.
So yeah, if you guys that don't know, Gene won his first Bassmaster Elite Kayak Series event, Open, whatever they want. I think they pretty much put that under the Opens, if I remember correctly, at one time.
It's kind of open. It's the kayak trail, the Bassmaster kayak trail.
So with that win, he's going to be heading with all of us to Texas, Lake Fork 2025 championship, and I know you're excited about that. But I want to kick the show off with, a transformation that's been going on in your life in the last few months, and we've seen it, and that's the weight loss, brother. I mean, it's a new Gene Jensen is what we're looking at right here. I mean, I've been knowing you for a very long time, so I mean, it's like I've seen the transition, because you were a nurse,
X-ray tech.
Yes, that's right, because you're the same thing Danielle's mom was.
Yeah, I'm married to
Danielle's mom was an X-ray tech. That's right.
Yep.
So you're an X-ray tech, professional YouTuber, professional angler, and life, like all of us, think we just go on with our daily lives, and we don't think about the whole entire transition. And hell, I got bigger. I'm so glad I got off a weld box. I'd have probably been a huge sitting on my ass all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But what made Gene say I'm ready to make a change, man?
Well, let me share my screen with you.
Okay. All right.
Does Brian have that? Oh, there we go.
Yes, I do.
So that was
calm down.
This was when we were rigging up the new Bonafide PWR in December, I believe. It was either October, November, December, somewhere around there. I was a big dude, and I felt bad. I hurt all the time and everything else, and so it was just it was time. I was mad at myself. We got professional photos done of me in that new kayak, and I was just like, dude, I got to get something done, and I heard all the time. I already knew that I had an issue with non-organic wheat, and and so I couldn't eat bread without having all kinds of digestive issues and things like that. And through my own trial and error and my own experimenting with what happened, I found out it's the glyphosate that they kill the wheat with. That basically it's Roundup that they kill the wheat with. Mm-hmm. And in order to harvest it, and my body senses that as soon as it eats it, and so that would cause all kinds of issues. And then and I just was ready to lose it. So I needed a jump start, and there was this new medication that was out. It's called Zepbound, and I started taking it along with strict doctors oversight.
Right.
And just to get it going, to get me motivated. And then throughout that whole process, I changed the way I eat completely. I'm eating more clean now. I'm cooking my own food. I'm making my own broth. I'm basically just eating anything that has as few ingredients as possible in it. Mm. So lots of vegetables, lots of fruit that's not super sweet. So it's low. It's basically no sugar, low carb, high protein, and healthy fats is what I'm eating.
Right.
So,
are you measuring your food?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I'm doing basically intermittent fasting, but it's basically I just don't put any food on the kayak, and I go fishing from sunup to sundown every day, and then I eat when I get home. But I eat a good sized salad or something like that. Just I don't binge. So,
did you try like an elimination diet first to find out what your body responded the best to?
Yes.
Did you get blood work? Okay.
Yeah, well, it was through years of dieting, and so I was on the paleo diet years ago. And got off of it a little bit, had a cheat day and ate bread, and all of my symptoms came back. And I'm like, wait a minute. And so I remember exactly when those symptoms started originally. I was in AIT at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, the spring of '97. I know exactly where I was standing when the belching and the burping and the gas and everything else started in my stomach. And so this is 15 years later, I'm doing the paleo diet, and I'm like, I got to figure this out. And I said, what did the FDA approve prior to the spring of '97 that had to do with wheat or bread or anything like this? And I looked at public record, and they approved the use of herbicides to kill wheat in order to harvest them early so they can get another crop in. And herbicide is Roundup, basically, and under a different name called glyphosate, anyway. And so I started doing my own experimenting, and sure enough, there's no doubt that that's what it is, because I can do organic all day long, and I grew up on organic wheat. And my mom would bake bread once a week, two loaves a week, and I grew up on all that. So, and then through all of that and through a little bit of conspiracy stuff, I've kind of been playing around with different things and testing different things, and figuring out that I just needed to go back to eating just straight meat, greens, and fats, and stay away from anything that was super processed.
Yeah, it's fascinating in 2024 how many things can be solved with proper diet and exercise. I think it was It's insane.
It's nuts. My body has I mean, I had 11 warts on this left hand, and they are all gone. They just went away.
Wow.
I had tendonitis in my left elbow from setting the hook so many times on a trick shad on giant bass this spring. I ain't kidding. I had tendonitis right here, and it's gone. You know, and I was having to get steroid shots in order to be able to fish. And my body has slowly healed itself. I had, you know, skin issues, and that's all but gone. And, you know, it's just a matter of eating right now. I do grow a garden. I didn't this last year, but I told my wife, I says, I'm not going another year without a garden because I eat what I grow.
Right.
And I know what's in it. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's one thing these new kids don't. I mean, we had 2 gardens because we actually had 2 properties, and we had about a football field worth of a garden. We grew every single year. And we even grew one when we moved, you know, into the county. But I mean, a lot of these kids now do not understand eating out of a garden. I mean, heck, cucumbers, radishes, you name it.
Oh, and it's so good. My gosh.
Yes.
I mean, not to make this a TED talk, but I mean, even the cheeseburger that our families ate, my parents ate, it's not the same cheeseburger from McDonald's you get now. And a lot of that crap it's so accessible right now. It's so easy. It's 4 a.m. You forgot to pack stuff. Your wife's mad at you. You got out of the house. You're going to hit Sheetz or a Wawa's or a gas station. Just grab something. But a lot of it is just pure poison.
Yeah. And I when I get that point, I'm just like, I'm just not going to eat. You know, until I can get maybe some pork rinds that don't have any sugar in the seasoning, or, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, and my wife thinks I'm crazy, the things I eat, and I'm still just dumping weight. You know, I use beef tallow instead of seed oils, and all these things that we've been told for years that were good for us are not.
No,
you know,
we were fed a lie. We were fed a lie growing up.
A huge one. Yep. And I wish, you know, a lot of people roll their eyes at this because it is, you know, it's out there a little bit. My wife does. She's a nurse, and she, you know, grew up. I mean, you know, she was trained in all this stuff. She has a hard time with me eating tallow, but then she sees the results, you know, and so it's. I've seen it, and like I said, it would be a conspiracy theory if I believed what everybody else said, but it's not. It's me doing my own research and my own stuff and trying it on my own body and saying, "Oh wow, this is where I know." And I've lost 82.5 pounds since Christmas.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. So,
you know,
is there are you lifting weights? Are you running, walking, any of that?
I just working in the yard, doing garden work, splitting wood. You know, staying active. I need to start going to the gym. I do have a gym membership. That's because Planet Fitness has really nice showers on the road.
That's true. That's true.
But
come on, you don't want to use a truck stop shower. I mean, it's guaranteed clean.
There's some truck stop showers. They charge a lot of extra money to keep the hookers out of them. And so I kind of would rather go to Planet Fitness.
That's awesome. So like we were saying earlier, guys, if you haven't been following Gene, I mean, on his YouTube channel, how many years have you been doing a YouTube channel now, brother?
I think 16 or 15 years or something like that.
That's right, because we're about the same age in YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
476,000 subscribers. Is there anything, you know, your channel's gone through many different, like with anybody's channel, it goes through many different transitions and periods. Was there a time that you said, "Hey, I can actually do this full time," and then it just blew up?
Yeah, it was about 4 or 5 years into it when I got my first check after about almost 4 years, and that was $100. And then the following year, you know, everything doubled, went, you know, between 100% increase in numbers and things like that to 112% was the most I increased over a year period. And I just told myself, this is something. And my wife and I had, you know, we're having arguments because I was still spending more money than I was making. And YouTube was, you know, crazy people did YouTube. It was dumb for somebody my age to do YouTube. and try to make a living at it. It was just, it was unheard of. And I wasn't trying to make a living at it. I just enjoyed doing what I was doing, and enjoyed what, the stories and people learning from me, and more stories and helping people and all this other stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And it's, it was, it just kept going. And I told my wife, I says, I actually chose the point in time that I was going to quit my full-time job as an x-ray tech. I chose it, and 4 years prior to doing it, and missed it by a month.
Oh, wow.
Because of the increase in the numbers, and the crunching the numbers and seeing at what point I would be making as much money doing YouTube as I was making shooting x-rays. And so that was a tough transition. It was scary as heck. I bought a house, and two hours later, I sent my notice into work. Quit my job. So,
Jeez almighty, man.
But for some reason, a bank won't give you a loan if you don't have a job. So
no, that's,
you got
I've and Gene has been somebody that I've followed and hung on every word for, and that's we got to hang out a little bit in Chattanooga here not too long ago, and that was something that we talked about. It's getting there. So I listen to the master as much as I can.
Geeks over there brimming, as he records from a Target like business back office.
I'm just the one that never quit. And so, even now, YouTube's kind of plateauing. There's so much content out there. So many people doing great content. We're not growing nearly as much. I'm actually probably going to drop numbers this winter because of old accounts that are being phased out and that kind of stuff. I'm not really worried about that. That's not what I do. The hard part right now is sponsorships, because all these companies are being bought up by larger conglomerates, and those larger conglomerates are reducing marketing budgets, and you're going to see pros losing their sponsorships. You're going to see, a lot of really tough changes for people. People aren't going to be able to do this for a living, and so there's other things we're going to have to swing, to shift to do. And I'll probably have to go against what I believe in. And I don't like, openly marketing stuff. I like proving that it works and showing you guys that it works, and then you go out and decide whether you want to buy it or not. And so I got to figure that out. And it may not be through YouTube. It may be through TikTok. I started doing TikTok lives from my kayak. The second day of the Bassmasters tournament, I was live in the whole day. And so I'm the first person ever to put Starlink on my kayak. And,
you got that Starlink Junior?
Yeah, I got the mini, and
the mini,
and installed it on the front of my kayak, and I can freaking stream all day long if I want to. So I had to buy a second stinking phone, but.
Do you think YouTube's best days are behind them or in front of them when it comes to AdSense revenue?
It's hard to say. It's more, I think, certain genres are getting saturated, and if and I'm stuck to this genre because I love it, and this is what my calling in life is, and that kind of stuff, and being able to do this. But I shouldn't expect, in my head, to have exponential growth, like I have in the past. But it's hard to say. It really is. Well, I don't think the individual can make as much money in a short amount of time as they used to be able to. And the way to make money now is to produce your own products and stuff like that. But if I become a bait company owner, then I don't get to fish anymore.
That's right.
So, and I think I would lose my mind if I couldn't get out on the water.
I think that's important for kids that are listening, that just because you start a YouTube channel doesn't mean you're going to get Mr. Beast numbers. It really depends on the niche that you get into. And I've always wondered if, 300 to 500,000 is kind of like the top 5% in the fishing community. I mean, you'll have outliers that go bigger than that, but it kind of seems where that kind of falls.
Well, and the hard thing we're having right now, we're having to deal with right now, is so many of these companies that are buying all these fishing companies, and they don't understand the social media marketing side of the fishing industry. And so they're just phasing us out. They're just saying, "Oh, we don't need you." And then all of a sudden, look at, and I'll use 13 Fishing as a prime example. You do not see anything about 13 Fishing online anymore.
No.
Since Rapala bought them and got rid of everybody in 13 Fishing. You don't see anything, not nearly what you used to online, and that if you go backwards, Quantum and Zebco and stuff like that, back in the day when Facebook was just getting started and stuff like that, their marketing director still didn't believe in the internet. Mm-hmm. And so you never heard anything about Shimano or not Shimano, about Quantum and about Zebco and about all those brands that were under the Zebco brand. And because they didn't market on the internet, they still marketed in TV and magazines for years until that guy retired. And some young guy who called me about 2, 3, maybe 4 months after he came on, begging for help because they were so far behind in marketing. It's been neat to watch. I've been a witness of the whole thing, and it's been really cool to watch. But it's frustrating to know what you can do, but nobody will listen to you to be able to, so you can prove it.
And
I used to be able to do, hey, watch this is what I called it. I'd call these little companies like off the top of my head, Greenfish Tackle. I'd call Greenfish Tackle and say, hey, John, I'm about to drop a video about this bait. Tell me when Tackle Warehouse reorders. Yeah. 2 hours later, he'd call me, dude, they just reordered 800, or whatever, And so, but you can't do that anymore because they don't believe you.
Now, what I've found is a lot of your smaller mid-tier companies, it's still that way. I mean, and I think a lot of them, and I'm not going to name some of them, but I know some of them that are sponsoring some big top names out there. Mm-hmm. One that I'll say we've already mentioned in this episode. And, they reach out to me and they're like, look, we're just not seeing a return from them. And then, you get them onboarded maybe to something small. And it's, for me, I've seen a lot more this year of those companies that are finally like, listen, I say this all the time. I love the pros. I'm a fan, but I'll go toe to toe with the biggest names, and I'm nowhere near Gene Jensen size, but I'll go toe to toe with my analytics and my following with any. I don't care who. I'll go KVD. Let's roll, baby. Let's roll. Let's see who's going to move product.
Yeah. Well, and the other issue I've had in the past and still having these days is those smaller companies can't pay me what I'm worth.
They can't. Yeah.
Yeah. And so so what they do end up paying me, I give them that much work and a little bit more. Yeah. But they want 10 times more work and I can't afford to do it because I get no return because I'm spending more money than they're paying me in order to do what they need me to do. People forget these videos aren't free. They're free for people to watch, but I'm spending $30,000 to $45,000 a year to produce them.
Well, just one video. If you look at the man hours, and me and my, I sat down and figured up just a 12 to 15 minute straight up how to, straight up how to, where you're at least out on the lake, maybe got one fish catch in it. It's a minimum of 24 hours to film, produce, brainstorm, to put all the legwork in, get all the baits that you need to do it. I mean, it's a 24. It is minimum of 24 hours to get that one, video polished, uploaded, tag titled, and then posted. So.
And what I understand this, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, and what you were talking about how much it costs, Gene. Mr. Beast spends millions.
Oh, he doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
Millions for his videos. Yeah, but he puts so much time into it. It's dubbed in so many different languages.
But he's the 1%ers, though. I mean, I'm not saying everyone has to do that, though. He has his own movie studio, for God's sakes.
And chocolate.
What was interesting is during my MBA program, I got to intern with a social media company. And the biggest thing that they said that really hurt the industry was TikTok, because they were like, people were starting to understand the value of a view. And then this bomb came in that was TikTok. And it's like, I got 1 billion like views. It's like, what the hell does that mean? How do you quantitate a 3-second clip getting views? Can you push a product? What is that view worth? Is a view on TikTok the same as Instagram, as at YouTube? And the business world just got so far behind that. Cause I remember when TikTok blew up and people threw a lot of money at them. And it's like, now people are like, oh shit, I'm not getting my return on my investment on shorts, which you saw YouTube follow. And it's so funny how they're always, I feel like 2 to 3 years behind the curve on what's happening.
Yeah.
And what's even worse is the outdoor industry by history is usually 7 years behind.
Yeah. And the other thing about it is, you know, what was it when we were speaking with Slick? He was saying, you know, your audience, honestly, you've only got about a 3 million people that are really roughly into fishing and bass fishing, as I call it, a niche of a niche. So, you know, you've got fishing and then you niche down. If you're just bass fishing, you're a niche of a niche when it comes to the outdoors. So you're very limited. You know, people ask me all the time, and I'm a boat guy, but I'm a boat guy because of the area I live in. You know, there's not really, I mean, there's no ponds unless there's, you know, somebody's dammed up a holler somewhere. And then most times they got cows in it. And, you know, as I always jokingly say, you don't sneak into those ponds because there's only, for the whole county, there's only, you know, 2 or 3 police officers. So people shoot you and then they call people. So, you know, it's like, hey, I shot this dude out here fishing in my pond. I don't know what he was doing to my cows. You know what I'm saying? You know,
but you kind of wonder.
Get me started.
You kind of wonder. You kind of wonder as a whole, like, you know, like Thomas was saying there a little while ago, and you know that really did hurt us because people were looking at the number of followers more than they were looking at the engagement.
Right.
And that's what, you know, we don't have but like, I think 20,000 plus on Instagram, almost 10 on TikTok. But if 50,000 people are watching the video based on, you know, the followers, or 2,000 are watching it, you know, I'm saying that engagement is where it really, really is. But, you know, a lot of companies have had to come along to where they can show you breakdown like YouTube does, and Geek showed me that in the past, where it does give you all the analytics, how much time's watched, you know, how much time, viewing time, and how many people clicked on it. And I mean, it's, you got to hire somebody to record the video. You got to record the video, hire someone to edit the video, and then hire another crew to handle the rest of it. And a lot of people don't think about this as well. And I was talking to Geek. These people will change their YouTube titles 5 or 6 times after the YouTube comes out, just to see which one clicks the best. So I mean,
you can do that, but you really have to be careful because the first few hours are your subscribers, and so you have to pretty much, if you're going to try to figure that out, you've got to wait till that falls off.
Yeah.
And then if your subscribers are well engaged in your stuff, then YouTube picks it up and blasts it out to everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to, if you want to experiment. And my son does that for me. He gets all into that detailed stuff. The biggest thing is to remember that you don't want to do it in the first few hours, or you shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
And something that I've discovered on that is you're actually better going with that clickbaity title to get your subscribers to watch, and then maybe a day or 2 later change it to an evergreen title, and even go in and make sure that those tags and stuff are evergreen so that it gets long term.
One good thing about what me and Geek do, you know, our instructional wise, is they live forever. Vlogs don't. Vlogs, they have their peaks and then nobody watches them anymore because they're outdated. You know, and that's why you don't ever put a year or on a title. You know, you can put a month, but don't ever put a year.
And it's same with podcast. I mean, I'm a big believer in it, and I've seen the numbers And a lot of people that will first find you will go back and look at old episodes, and they will listen to past episodes of someone they want to listen to. So it's kind of the same thing as YouTube. Well, if I find a YouTuber that I like, 90% of the time, I'm going to go back and watch old stuff just to kind of catch up with the story. If there's a 4-part story, or if it's just one, or, or learn about the history. But that's how geekish I am about it all, but how they all got started and what brought them to 400,000 followers and 1 million followers and all that crazy crap that goes on with YouTube.
And I really like to shy away from the whole going viral, because I think a lot of people try to hit that, and that's like the lottery. I just say play the evergreen game, because that will, when you get a video to hit that, it'll launch for you, but you can't predict which video is going to go viral. And
an instructional video won't go viral.
That too.
And that's, I made that decision many, many years ago. There was no way I was ever going to worry about going viral with what I did. But I want little Johnny to be able to sit down and learn how to fish so he can beat the socks off his daddy, or, or the single mom can watch my beginners playlist and know what she needs to do to get to the point where she can take her kids fishing. That's what I want. I don't care about anything else.
I've got one video where I'm talking. This video does well because it's, why should you start a fishing channel? And it's like, look, I'm the type of guy that I'm not going to be like a, one-eyed, three-legged donkey picks my baits in Walmart. I'm never going to be that guy. It's just not who I am. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, man, you do you, but I'm just a guy that likes fishing, and
I'm still picturing a one-eyed, three-legged donkey.
Listen, if I can find one, I will make that video. So if y'all find a guy that's got a one-leg or a three-legged one-eyed donkey, I'm going to take him to Walmart. I might get arrested, but that will also be a viral video.
That'll be on Geeks Hub channel.
So your channel now, what direction do you see your channel going in the future, Gene?
Well, so YouTube doesn't want us to do a lot of shorts in a short amount of time, which makes absolutely no sense to me.
What happened like 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah. So when I started doing one every other day, I lost subscribers, and I don't understand that. And it was all a YouTube algorithm thing that caused that. It wasn't, them literally clicking, to unsubscribe. And then, so they want you to do 1 or 2 a week, and then 1 video a week. And that's not a grind. That's dumb.
Yeah.
And so they said that they were going to kind of split up the vlogging stuff and all the overproduced stuff with, split it up from the instructional stuff at one point in time, and they never did. And I'm kind of waiting on that, because then so they'll treat our algorithms different than they treat the other algorithms, but they haven't done that yet. And so for me, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm going to put a lot more focus on TikTok. And mainly TikTok lives, I think, and I'd love to do YouTube lives. You just can't make any money at it.
What is the audience crossover between TikTok and YouTube? Because I've always found that fascinating. Okay.
It's minimal. It's very minimal. So I'm growing a new audience. So I'm not putting a lot of money. I'm putting money up front, but I'm not putting a lot of money down the road until things start really rocking and rolling. But that also gives me opportunity to start doing products through TikTok Shop. Cast King's on TikTok Shop. A couple of my other sponsors are, and seeing about that. I'd have to figure out the affiliate stuff, because my affiliate stuff for Cast King to the Cast King website is really, really good. For TikTok Shop, it's about half of that. So, but I got to figure all that out.
I signed up for the TikTok Shop, and it's more than I really wanted, Devin, to be honest. It's a lot to it. It's not just like you can set up a shop. It's a lot to it.
Yep.
And I said, if I'm going to get into this thing, I'm going to have to hire someone, because someone's going to have to know how to write the right description, the right product title, and then you guys shoot a video about it. And it's
yeah. But my TikTok is going to be different than my YouTube stuff. It'll still be some short instructional stuff, because those do good on TikTok. They really do, numbers wise. But and then Instagram is kind of flatlining too. I mean, or plateauing. I wouldn't say flatlining because they're not dead, but plateauing. And literally I've had 140 some odd thousand for 3.5 years on Instagram. And so, which I still could not get verified. I had to pay for the stupid crap. It drove me nuts anyway. So yeah, it's for me, I just want to continue to do what feels right. It's what I've done since day one. If it doesn't feel right, I don't do it. And it's tough. So
yeah, anybody that asks me if they want to start a fishing channel, I say, A, never fish from a boat. B, never, and probably go find another niche to go if, depending on if you love fishing, do it, but just be prepared. This is not the place where you're going to get YouTube rich and famous.
Yeah, do you be true to yourself and have fun doing it. And if you stop having fun doing it, venture somewhere else. Who knows? I might do a gardening one next year, or something like that. I've been gardening longer than I've been fishing. So, it's just, but Daddy
I got a guy at work that has a gardening channel and he does really freaking well with it.
Yeah, you can do really good with it.
Gardening channel that I listen to. Well, I don't listen to, but I listen to his story. Yeah. And he went from a garden into growing his own plants, and now he's like in the millions of dollars.
Yeah. And the thing is I don't want to do trendy gardens. I just want to do the right garden. I don't, I see all these people buying these raised beds for thousands of dollars and doing all this crap. Just dig up the soil, and plant something there and watch what happens, you knuckleheads. Yeah.
But it's not aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. Who cares? I got 7 acres outside. I can plant whatever I want to.
That's awesome. But yeah, guys, like you were saying earlier about social media, I've set it like 20,000, which is on Instagram, but over the last 6 months, Facebook's done come back to life.
Yeah.
I mean, before it has sat, I was sitting at I set it like 16, 17,000 for probably 3 years. And now we're at 18 and we're almost to 19 within a month. Yeah. I'm inviting 100 people a day to the website. These are people clicked on it, liked it, or loved it, etc. And so all social media is going to do is going to go through some type of a trend. And that's why Gary Vaynerchuk talks about being different, your videos from different platforms, but also you should be on every platform.
Yep. And my trick for all these years has always been pay attention to what the high school kids are doing for the next platform, and get on it when the high school kids are on it. You don't have to do anything, just to establish your brand and everything else on there. And by the time you get things rolling with that, those high school kids have graduated, they got full-time jobs and they're spending money, and you're in that realm. Yeah. So that's why I've got a good Instagram. That's why I'm working on TikTok, and I'm about 2 or 3 years late with that. And then, Facebook was the same way. I started out in forums, bass fishing forums. And then there was this Facebook thing that all the high school kids were on, and the parents thought it was dumb. And then, just you keep stepping over to the next one and to the next one. It's just a matter of figuring out which one's the next one.
Yeah, and I really think with all that said, it's like the millennials are the first generation that's going to age with this, and I do think YouTube's best days are in front of it, not behind it. Especially as TV dies and the marketing dollar will only have live sports and YouTube, and with this, not to get political, but with this last go around, YouTube just told them pound sand, because where else are you going to take the marketing dollars but us, which is a complete. Yeah, which is a complete difference from 16. And I think what that shows is the leverage they have. And I wonder if we're going to start seeing them open up the floodgates for AdSense, because that will change the content creator market if they show that they are the big dog and they don't have to pretend.
I hope that they do it, because I've been waiting on that for 4 or 5 years. I turned down three TV shows in my career. I've turned every one of them down. Because I would have had to go to my sponsors and ask for 20 times more money than they were paying me, and they would get zero in return.
Yep.
And so
But it's that's a brilliant example though of this Hollywood mentality of like, if I put this in this weird ass outdated format, it's more valuable than the same product that I can watch on my damn phone. Like, what's the difference between a TV show? You can shoot it just like a TV show and put it on YouTube, but you can demand more money if you put it on Fox or something like that. It's just preposterous.
Yep. And if you shoot it like a TV show and put it on YouTube, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, I love the man to death, but Nick the Informative Fisherman, his were TV shows on YouTube and they didn't do anything. You know?
True.
And with today's technology, I mean, you really can shoot everything. I mean, I got a iPhone 14. It's 4K video. I mean, and I still upload 1080p because most anglers that live in the backwoods can't watch a 4K video. So, I mean, it's no need for me to spend the extra 30 minutes to upload a 4K video. But,
unless you're really shooting B-roll or some sort of like real cinematic, I mean, you can get away with the 1080, but once you're shooting like the slow-mo, the B-roll, really the cinematic stuff, that's the stuff that matters. Yep. You know, me sitting in front of a camera, I don't need 4K to see all my ugly.
Come on, geek.
Anyway, we better get to talking to Gene about why the crap he's here and not us going down.
No, I want to break down about
us going down the daggone. Yeah, Gene might have won something, guys.
Guys, we can talk forever, but I mean, we love Gene. But,
we're all a bunch of social media geeks, and we're going down that rabbit hole.
Oh gosh, yeah.
We've all been doing this
listenership for this one's just tanked on you, man.
Did you figure I started in 2008. Gene, you were right around the same time.
Yep.
Geek, you were a couple years later.
A little bit. I was 2017, 16, 17, somewhere in here.
Yeah.
And Thomas has been doing it for what, 4 years?
Maybe
3-year anniversaries this November.
3 years coming up. So
I'm going to help you segue here. Going into this tournament, did you have any preconceived notions of what was going to play out?
Yes. I did 100,000 hours of research. Plus I had fished that area, not Bistineau, but I fished Caddo in the previous tournament 2 years ago and got my pants beat off by the people fishing Bistineau during a drawdown. And so, but I literally could not stop focusing on that tournament for 2 months prior to it. And so me and my travel partner went there in the end of August, first couple of days of September to pre-fish Caddo. And I marked over 500 waypoints in 7 days over there.
Wow.
And didn't use any of them because I didn't even fish Caddo. I went to but it helped me to quickly eliminate Caddo as soon as I went to Bistineau Saturday, Sunday, and was able to camp at Bistineau State Park. But then my Airbnb, which was 80 miles from Bistineau, opened up because I got an Airbnb thinking I was going to fish Caddo. And then Bistineau was so good that I was like, crap, I got to drive an hour and a half every morning to get to the boat ramp. And I said, well, I do that to Gunnersville anyway. I might as well. But anyway, so, you know, I went on Monday. So Saturday, Sunday, Bistineau. Monday, I went to Caddo and checked about 25 or 30 of those spots. And it was totally barren. I was catching no fish per se. And I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm doing 100% focus on Bistineau for the rest of pre-fishing, and proceeded to go do that. And the cool thing is, and I mentioned this to Bassmasters when they interviewed me, is that when I can figure out what's going on the lake, what's the biggest thing going on the lake, and it's happening all over the lake, I'm pretty deadly. I've won 3 tournaments where I've done that. And I think I've only figured that out 3 times in all the tournaments I've ever fished, that I could go anywhere on the lake and catch good quality fish, as long as I figured out how to find them quickly without having to catch them. And so, prime example was the very first fish I caught in the tournament. I was going to go this one area, but then the last hour of practice, I pulled up on this one spot, which was a community hole, a local community hole. But I found this 10-foot by 8-foot spot that had fish on it, and I know why they were there. and I caught 3 of them in 3 casts while I was on the phone with Michael and Damon, my travel partners, and then left. And I decided that was going to be my starting spot. Well, the second guy that ended up coming in second place for the tournament, he went through the trees to get to the spot, and I went around him, and we met about 30 yards apart to start the tournament. And we have to wait till lines in. So we were sitting there talking, waiting on lines in. And he came out 10 yards on the other side of my spot and turned and went away from it. And I was like, if he turns towards it, then I'm going somewhere else. If he turns away from it, then I'm going to fish that spot and get out of here. And I went and I fished that spot, caught a 19.5-inch fish. I got bumped by one more and tried to catch it and couldn't get it to bite, and I left. But I knew he was there. I knew he was on that spot, and it was a pretty cool little deal. And then I went and just went fishing.
When you're talking about breaking down 2 different bodies of water, over 600 waypoints probably done. And you don't have a restriction on practice. Is there a sweet spot that you found between I need 1 day, I need 28, I need to camp out at the lake for 3 months? Like, is there a Swedish spot there?
So this one has a restriction on practice. You have 7 days prior. It cuts off a month prior. And so I fished it prior to that month cutoff. And then it opens back up 7 days before the tournament. So usually the Saturday before the tournament starts the following Saturday. And for me, it was just keeping track of the inches that I caught in the early days of pre-fishing. So I would hook every fish for the first 4 days. And
the 7 days leading up to it.
In pre-fishing, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, leading up to the tournament. And I'm not shaking anything off or anything else. And I keep record of all those fish that I catch, and then total up the best 5. And so with Bistineau, day 1, I caught 89 inches. Day 2, I caught 93.5 inches. Caddo, I didn't even catch 5. I only caught 4. And then I went back to Bistineau, caught 90 and 3/4. And that was done. And I stopped keeping track because I stopped catching. I started shaking them off, and I figured out how to find them without throwing a hook at them.
This time of year, did you practice before the cutoff? And does it even matter to practice before the cutoff when you have a month during the fall transition?
No, it typically it wouldn't help you. I went there to get my travel partner excited about going there and fishing.
Gotcha.
Is what I did, because he wasn't totally excited. He had never fished it before, and those are my 2 favorite lakes in the South, outside of Georgia. And so I took him there just to show him how fun it was to catch fish on those 2 lakes. And so but when I told him that after I got the Airbnb, I called him. I said, I think I screwed up. And he's like, what? I was like, I think we're going to end up fishing Bistineau. And I got the Airbnb on the opposite side of Caddo, 30 minutes north of Caddo. And we had to go southeast to get to Bistineau. He said, how far? I said, 82 miles. He's like, oh, crap.
So how many of those days in the 7 did you actually practice before the tournament?
6.
You practice all of them, 6 of them?
All of them. Well, 6 to Bistineau and that 1 to Caddo.
Gotcha.
Wow.
And that was sun up to sundown. I only caught 4 keepers.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That sounds like any lake I fish. So,
because
when you went from fishing the same areas and catching 80 to 100 a day a month before, or a month and a half before, however long it was before when we did it, and then go and those fish are all completely gone, and I couldn't find them shallow, and I couldn't find them deep, and nothing, and I was just like, all I could find were shorts everywhere. Wow. And so I was like, nope, we're not doing this. So I didn't even bother.
It's an interesting thought that if you have it, should you use it? If you have 7 days, should you do it? Or because I know so many friends when they're practicing for a BFL or a Toyota or whatever, they're like, well, yeah, I'm going to practice every day I have. But at some point, is it like analysis paralysis? I know what I'm going to do. Me getting on the water more is going to make things worse in my head.
It's being able to recognize that point. That point where you're just like, okay, and then just daily going and just spot checking to make sure nothing's changing. And so I found my winning area, I found it on Sunday. So the second day of practice is when I found my winning area. And I found these fish in the back of this drain, and I sat there and watched a local guy whack on them. And I was just like, okay, so there's a school of fish here. So 2 days later, when I came back, I went and checked them, and they had moved because the water level had dropped an inch. And they had moved almost 60, 70 yards. And so they were a little bit further out. And then the following day, they were still dropping water. They were dropping water, I think, a half an inch a day or 1 inch a day because they're on that fall drawdown where they drop down up to 9 feet. And so every day they moved a little further out down this drain. And I just kept track of them by just going and spot checking them. And I did it with my active target and my side scan, mainly my side scan. But I would double check them with my active target just so I could count fish and that kind of stuff. And so, and then come tournament day, they were positioned just perfect in a narrow little part where all the current as they were drawing water was coming out. It was hitting 3 giant cypress trees, and there was a rise between 2 cypress trees. So it was kind of a ledge fishing. I'm ledge fishing in 3 feet of water, and they were sitting right up on top of that ledge. And I caught 6 fish in 6 casts. And then in the next 3 casts, I caught 2 more and had a really good limit. And then just tried to polish it off the rest of the tournament by going somewhere else, or the rest of the day, the day one. So
talk about your setup just a little bit. What were you throwing? What, you don't, without giving away too much, of course.
Oh, I'll throw the whole thing. This is all I was throwing. That's it.
Wow.
This is a Nichols Lures pulsator, I think is what they call it.
Yeah. So what made you go with the white blades?
Dirty water. I mean, because with all that, it's a swamp lake, and with all that current, it stirs up the silt and it gets a little bit dingier. And that lake is always dingy anyway, because there's hardly any grass on that end of the lake. There's some down at the dam, but that's about it. So
what was the visibility of it?
6 inches.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, maybe a foot, depending on how much current there was. And another key thing was the rod. So people make fun of casting, and because of casting's old
that's a great rod. I own some. They're great.
This stinking rod right here. Okay, so this is their swim bait rod. It's a 7'6" swim bait rod. It is oh crap. Yeah, okay. I'm 50 years old and I finally need glasses. It's a medium heavy fast. 20 my whole life. Anyway, so it's a medium heavy fast rod. So I needed a stout rod to be able to muscle these fish out from these stumps and out from all the wood and everything else we were catching them on. And 7 3-to-1 gear ratio reel, 17-pound test fluorocarbon. This is Seagar Smackdown Seagar Braze X. So I could, they could rub it up against something and I wouldn't lose fish. I didn't lose a single fish because of a break off or anything else. But I almost lost one of my 20 inchers when the original one that I caught probably 50 fish on broke as I'm bringing the fish into the net. And it flopped into the net, and I was able to get both pieces of the spinnerbait back. But spinnerbaits break, I used to make spinnerbaits that were guaranteed to break after 4 fish. You caught 4 fish, you took it off, you put a new one on because the wire was so light. But anyway, so it was an area that as they're drawing down, at least 5,000 acres of this lake drains into this one drain. Like into this 100-yard wide.
Wow.
250-yard stretch drain.
Talk about a pinch point.
So yes. And I figured that out on Sunday. It might have even been Saturday, but anyway, figured it out when I went up and I had to paddle. I pulled my trolling motor up off my kayak, and I had to paddle around to find these deeper ditches. And I just followed these ditches out until they got into that drain. And I'm like, this is something, And what the other cool thing about this drain is that people were fishing one side of these big group of trees, but the drain was actually on the opposite side of those trees. And it was so narrow in one place that you didn't know it was there until you went over it. And so, and that big group of cypress trees kept people from going in there, but my kayak could get up in there and get to that deeper area that was on the backside of it. Caught a lot of fish there. Not good ones. Those were all smalls. The big ones had already moved out a little bit deeper, but yeah, it was just cool. And all I needed was that spinnerbait. I really did. I tried other things. I caught one on a frog the second day just because I situational. Saw fish blowing up under the grass and pulled him out from under slid the frog to the edge of the grass and and he bit it right on the edge, and that was it. So let me show you one more picture. This was cool. Let me get to my share screen thing. Come on, pop up for me. There it is. Right. So this was the launch. See the boat ramp?
Yeah.
Okay, so the boat ramp, and then that's all giant Sylvania. And I had to put my hip waders on, or drop the trailer off the edge of the ramp, drop it into the blowhole that's at the bottom of the ramp, because you guys know power loading creates a blowhole.
Yeah.
But that blowhole is nice because then I could turn my kayak around and then push it all the way out to right here. Then I could get into it and paddle out to the main lake.
Wow.
And so I did that every single day. And
wow.
And that deterred a lot of people from putting in at that ramp.
Yeah.
So let me there we go. And so it was really fun to be able to at least do that and get out there. And it was muddy, and it was silty bottom anyway. But if you stayed where the boat lane was, it was a little bit shallower and you didn't get stuck as much. But you get out there and then it just, and it's very low pressure from kayakers. There were bass boats out there, but that was about it. So
interesting.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the coolest fish in the tournament was the last one, though. I was in 4th place when they shut off the leaderboard. And they shut it off with an hour left. And I started to spin out. I was like, dude, I was tied for 3rd numbers wise, but Jody had a bigger fish than me. And then just before the leaderboard shut off, the day 1 leader jumped in front of me. And so it was, ended up being in 4th. And I did what I do normally is when I spin out, is I go to what I'm comfortable doing. I put my sniper pole in the water and started scanning and had active target going and looking deep and everything else. I did that for about 20 minutes, and I'm like, what am I doing? I was like, this isn't what got me to where I'm sitting right now. I said, so I picked up my sniper pole, put it to my side, and I said, I'm just going to grab this spinnerbait and I'm going to hit every large piece of cover that I can find, every large stump, every large cypress tree, everything. And so with 15 minutes left, I saw this gnarly tree right out in the middle in about 4 foot of water. And I knew the fish were shallow, so I stayed up shallow and I threw that spinnerbait past, and I had to bump everything in order to get a strike. I had to bump what I was fishing past. And I just barely ticked one of the blades on the side of that tree, and it went sideways.
Wow.
About this far. And I'm like, and
that's awesome.
I was like, man, I got to get this. And it's on video. Luckily, I remembered to stop my camera and start it again and save it. I totally didn't know whether I did or not, but I looked at it when I got home. So my editor's got all that. It's going to be on the video. But that fish was 20.5 inches long. And it jumped me from 4th place all the way up to a half an inch over the leader, who had 102 inches that day. I mean, he had wailed on him that day.
Wow.
But 102 inches is hard to upgrade on, So I had 98.5, I think, or 98 and some change, and I jumped up to 100.5, and that's what got me. So adding up the numbers, that fish was worth $9,100 and some odd bucks.
Boom.
And so it was pretty cool. It was just, and it wasn't my goal. My goal wasn't to win it. It was just to catch every good fish that I could possibly catch and see what happens.
That's such a great case study of human nature, though, where it's like, I smoked up on it for 4 hours, so I might as well stop and try something else. But we all do that.
Yep.
I remember my high school coach fishing was like, well, you catch limit, then you lock a jig in your hand to get that one more bite. And it's such a weird counterintuitive thought versus just sticking with what got you there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The challenge I had, and what was frustrating to me, is that the way the current was pushing and the wind wasn't blowing that the second day, that giant Sylvania, which is basically, it looks kind of like hyacinth, or floats like hyacinth, but the roots underneath it are just really filamentous, and you can't punch through them. There's a lot of things you can't do with it. But they float around in small little hand-sized clumps. Well, that my whole area started to get covered with scattered of those clumps, so I couldn't throw a spinnerbait. You know, I had to, and they weren't hitting anything on the bottom, at least not for me. So I had to pick out the casting angles and the stumps that I could get to without getting hung up in that stuff. And that greatly got reduced in that last hour and a half of the tournament, just from the way the current was flowing. And so my main spot the first day where I caught all those fish in consecutive casts, I got one cast of that thing all day long when the wind blew and pushed the Sylvania just a little bit out of the way, and I was able to make a cast right along the edge of it, and I caught one 19-incher, and that was it.
Why a spinnerbait versus a chatterbait? It seems like the chatterbait the last couple of years basically has taken over in so many circumstances for it.
Wood.
Yeah. You're not going to bounce. You're not going to bounce that off wood.
Yep, chatterbait and wood is like a steel to a magnet, dude. You just you hit this, you hit a something sticking out of that cypress root or cypress ball wrong, and that thing gets hung up more times than not. And a spinnerbait, I can count on one hand how many times it got hung up in those 2 days of throwing it. You know, they just don't get hung up in wood. And so it's even with a trailer hook on. I did have a trailer hook on this one, but I had to put it in my pocket, so I took the trailer hook off. But yeah, that's when you go to a spinnerbait is when you gotta beat the wood up. So.
Is Brian on a couple of shows we talked about like what baits will be hot in the next couple of years and how forward-facing sonar baits took over. I really think it's also like the places they go. You know, if you went to a Cypress Lake in the elites, that bait would sell. If you went to a flat-sided crankbait like at that time, that will sell. It's not necessarily like they don't work anymore.
Yep. Yeah, and as for me, I try to fish the same lures I've always fished, even if I'm using forward-facing sonar. I don't get all into that. I've got those jig heads and stuff like that, but dude, I still know how to fish a chatterbait. I still know how to fish a crankbait. I still know, and I now know what a balsa wood crankbait looks like on forward-facing sonar. You can't see it as well. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I've said this. Listen, where I fish at, it's a lot different than a lot of people in the world. It's deep reservoirs, extremely clear reservoirs. I mean, I was throwing top water over 150 foot the other day, and somebody seen it on a TikTok, and they were like, "Did that say 130?" I was like, "Yeah." So, but even then, I've noticed the past 2 years, those bass are going to get conditioned to that boat traffic.
Oh yeah.
That ball head jig, this, that, the other, and I think a lot of the stuff, we're going to start more and more people like Gene knows are starting to use that forward-facing sonar fishing the way we used to be able to work that stuff. Maybe not for the fish themselves, but
I mainly use it to make the right cast. Exactly. And so, if I'm throwing a bullshit or throwing a trick shad like I've been doing all year, I want to see the brush pile and I want to know that I'm about to bring my bait right past that brush pile. I can't see the fish. It's stuck in the middle of it somewhere, but I want to be able to make the right cast. And I didn't use it that much in the tournament. I did use it a little bit when I was fishing 4 or 5 feet deep just to check and make sure the fish were still roaming in that area. And just to make sure and then I would pick it up and plop it right back up next to me and just fish. And
spinnerbait is a great bait to go down the bank and see if there's fish there and see if they're snugged up to the bottom too. Just get them to kind of show themselves and be like, okay, let me come back to that later.
Yep.
That's awesome. All right, man. You guys will be able to see Gene at the 2025 Classic in a kayak this time, not in a booth.
Yep, be fishing the kayak championship on Lake Fork, which I always break something at Lake Fork. So the last tournament I was fishing out of a Jackson, I believe, or did I have a Bonafide at the time? I can't remember. No, I think I had a Jackson. It was the very first Bassmaster kayak tournament was held on Lake Fork. And my Torpedo, I sheared the prop off, broke the shaft on my way back to the boat ramp after the final day of practice. And so I had no motor. And so I had to scrap my entire plan and just go paddle to the closest place to the boat ramp because it was windy. And I caught one fish that term. It was a one-day tournament.
Wow.
And I hit a stick that was about as big around as maybe your wrist that was in the middle of the boat channel. It was not even out of the boat channel. It was right smack dab in the middle of it. And
so let's hope he doesn't break anything in 2020.
Oh, I'm bringing extras. I'll have extra motors and extra batteries.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my truck will weigh 1,000 pounds more just because I always break something. So.
All right, guys. So like I said, Gene, man, we really appreciate you coming on and talking with us tonight, getting caught up with what's going on in your world. Again, like I said, man, 2025 Classic will be here before we know it. I was looking at airfare tonight. I think it's going to be about $500 round trip from Virginia to Texas. So we're really looking forward to that. And like I said, I will be. There's my first trip to Texas. So really excited about that.
Dang, what rock you been hiding under?
It'll be my first trip to Texas too. So yeah.
Dude, there's some great fishing in that whole state. Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a darling here in Virginia. He was like the Bass Nation of Virginia king, went to a couple of Bass Master Classics, and he moved out there a couple of years ago. So he's in love with the place as well. So, I mean, big bass, big dreams, big stage. Ain't that what they say?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It'll be a blast.
Well, Gene, you got anything before we roll out, man, in tonight's episode, brother?
Biggest thing is just, is support all these local, social media, these content creators, where they are, and enjoy what we're putting out. We're all trying to adjust and move with the content world, and waiting on the fishing industry to figure out what they're going to do, during this period of time. And it is weird. It is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And, just biggest thing is just support them. And then, if you guys want some really cool content with Starlink on my kayak now, I am going to be streaming as much as I possibly can as I'm fishing Guntersville. I guide Guntersville out of a kayak now. That's about to stop until next spring because I'm not going to do it in the wintertime. Too dangerous. Not for me, but for my clients. And so I'll still be fishing and still be streaming and stuff like that. And you get to see some really, really cool things. The biggest reason I'm doing that with Starlink is that my home lake where I jack all my giants has no signal at all, no cell signal. So
wow,
I want to be able to share that instead of just share the clips and the pictures. So many of you guys have seen that lake because it's a lake that Tactical Bassin sneaks in on every once in a while, and it's 10 minutes down the road from my house. So.
All right. So like you said, man, hit him up on TikTok. Make sure you guys hit the follow button, subscribe, whatever buttons there are on TikTok, and notifications. So when he does go live that you guys can watch and learn. I went live the other day on there. And I really didn't understand. And, I'm used to going live for like a few minutes. TikTok wants you to go live for hours. And I'm like,
yes.
I can't do this. I'll be like pooped. But it's a whole lot to learn, like you said, and there's, it's ever changing. And for you guys out there, make sure you diversify. I'm not going to lie big time about that. The basscast.com during COVID, tournaments slowed down, podcasts picked up. They were sending me checks where, I had a couple sponsors that have left during COVID. So, I mean, try to diversify as much as possible. And like I said, TikTok, Facebook, I get checks from Facebook now, guys. I just got one deposited yesterday. So, I mean, even when, and I'll tell you this right now, Google Analytics is sucking. I mean, my checks are like cutting half. That's how bad it sucks right now.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's diversify in whatever you decide to do in whichever direction you want to go. But, guys, I appreciate everyone coming on tonight. Make sure you guys check out Fishing the DMV. How many more videos you got coming up next week, dude? You said you got
it's
something
unhealthy.
Fishing this weekend.
Yeah, we got the Butch Ward charity event. It was on the Susquehanna River until PA, basically said live well tournaments don't count anymore. So they moved that to the Upper Potomac. So I got that this weekend, and then I think we have 5 episodes dropping next week, and then I'm cutting down for November so my wife doesn't get pissed at me, which is kind of important.
The holidays are right around the corner, so we're all going to be cutting back a little bit throughout the holidays. Anything special coming your way, Geek?
No, man, we're just going to keep rolling them out on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. You know how it is. We just, as my guy said, just grinding away at it.
Yep.
All right, guys, don't forget before the first cast, if you haven't watched this one, 3 Fall Mistakes That Anglers Make with Calvin Herndon drops every Friday. And these are 15 to 30-minute podcasts just to help you before the weekend, give you some tips before you hit the water. And, guys, Calvin has been interviewing a lot of anglers. Dude's going all out. He's busting, and I ain't gonna lie, he's doing great. So thank you for Calvin Herndon for coming on board with Bass Cast Radio and before the first cast. So have a great night, everyone. We'll be seeing you all again next week. Be safe out there.
Bye.